are going to start today's program in a slightly different manner than we normally do. Our distinguished speaker guest today has a song that she'd like to have us hear before we get started. So let's go ahead and do that now.
برای شرمندگی برای بیپولی برای حسرت یک زندگی معمولی برای کودک سوالگرد آرزوهاش برای این اقتصاد دستوری برای این هوای آلوده برای ولیعصر و درختای فرسوده برای پیروز و احتمال انقراضش برای سگهای بیگناه ممنوعه برای گریه های بیوقفه برای تصویر تکرار این لحظه برای چهره‌ای که میخنده برای دانش آموز و برای آینده برای این بهشت اجباری برای نخبه های زندانی برای کودکان افغانی برای این همه برای غیر تکراری برای این همه شعارهای تو خالی برای آباد خونه های پوشالی برای احساس آرامش برای خورشید پس از شبای طولانی برای روزهای اعصاب و بیخوابی برای مرد میهن آبادی برای دختری که آرزو داشت پسر بود برای زن زندگی آزادی برای آزادی برای آزادی برای آزادی
Thank you for sharing that with us. Well, that certainly sets the tone for what we're going to hear today. So good afternoon again to all of you. Welcome to everybody attending today. As you all know, my name is Karen Burkhardt. I am the Executive Director of the Colorado Springs World Affairs Council. We are pleased to welcome you to today's program, The Women, Life, Freedom Movement in Iran, Its Achievements and Challenges. Thank you to all of our supporters, the Richard Petritz Foundation, Tiemens. Thank you to our institutional members, Alphamar Foundation, the University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, Pikes Peak State College, Colorado Springs Chamber and EDC, SIVA Charter High School, and Fountain Valley School. And we have a number of Fountain Valley students here with us today. If you could just kind of raise your hands, let's welcome them. So before we get started, I am really excited to announce the kickoff of our year-end fund drive. We are proud of our outreach. We serve students, individuals, and other lifelong learners in Colorado Springs. Last month, we reached local high school students through our annual high school symposium. We have reached over 250, will be 260 by the end of the year, international visitors for professional exchanges, thereby placing Colorado Springs as an important player in reaching U.S. foreign policy goals. With your help, we can continue Colorado Springs World Affairs Council's work as the leading global affairs organization in this community. As 2023 is quickly coming to an end, we're asking for your continued support as you consider your year-end giving this year. Please consider including us in your list. Please help us to ensure that Colorado Springs World Affairs Council continues to offer the highest quality international awareness programs in Colorado Springs. We will be reaching out with more information very soon. So with that, I'd like to introduce today's speaker. Dr. Fatemeh Haghighatjoo, is that correct? Is a leading advocate of human rights and democracy in Iran. She was a member of Iran's Reform Parliament and was the first to resign in 2004 when anti-reform measures began to take shape. In 2001, Iran's judiciary sentenced her to 20 months in prison, later reduced to 10, and which she has not served, for her claims that the government had tortured prisoners and for criticizing the arrest of a journalist. Ms. Haghighatjoo currently serves as CEO of the Nonviolent Initiative for Democracy. Today, we also have this distinct pleasure of hearing our very own Masha Popovich converse with our distinguished speaker. We all know Masha as our always gracious event manager, but many of you may not know that prior to moving to the United States, Masha had a rich career in radio and television journalism, and she is an experienced interviewer. So we are looking forward to that, and with that, I could not be more pleased to turn the microphone over to Fatemeh. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Karen, for introducing me. Thank you so much, everyone, for inviting me here. It's my honor to be here. You heard the song. This song basically has been icon of Iran Women Like Freedom movement, and I wanted you here. Basically, the concept, Sherwin, who is the songwriter and player, he took the concept from Twitter, now called X, right, and put together as a song, which has been so effective. Quickly, the song became viral all around the world, and last year in 2022, he got awarded because of this fantastic song. So, let me see if okay, let's start with simple definition. It's not definition of violence, but I will start here that Johan Galhan identify violence in two ways: structural violence and cultural violence, which is basically, if we go to the root of Women Like Freedom movement, this is why the whole movement has started, because we have been seeing systematic violence against women in Iran for over several decades. There have been some sort of struggle, resistance, but this in recent years, women have been more vocal, refusing a state to control their body. How? Through mandatory hijab. And we know that some of this violence has been embedded in culture, unfortunately, because of patriarchal society. Some country culture has more, some less, and combination of culture and legal structure led that. If we look at to the Iranian constitution, we could find so many elements of gender apartheid. Apartheid word came from South African struggle, over racial discrimination, but basically so many scholars advocated we have to include gender as well. So after revolution, hijab become mandatory. And what does hijab mean? Covering head to toe. And I was talking to our distinguished guest here, and she has been in Saudi Arabia, and she has witnessed some of those mandatory hijab that I would love you just to hear your voice telling your story, your experience that you told me that you had to cover yourself on the street because you felt that way it's safer, right? If you tell us, thank you.
Thank you. A surprise. My husband Malfi and I lived in Saudi Arabia for a couple years, and it was during a very turbulent time. 2001, we arrived 2 weeks before 9/11, and we departed with the bombing of our compounds 2 years later. So it was because of the turbulent time, we had to, women, Western, whatever, had to cover. So I wore the abaya and the scarf at all times. And anytime we left our compound and went out in public, we had to be covered or we were chased down by the religious police. And it was safe though, because as long as you follow the culture of the countries you're in and abide by their rules, then you don't get yourself into trouble. But we were at the very first women's art exhibit, and the women there were very worried that they would end up going to jail or being caught. And so the experiences that we had were unbelievable, having to partake in the culture, be totally covered, be anonymous, try to blend, but yet experience the wonderful cultures and experiences that we had. And in our conversations, we compared stories. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Because it's important to hear first-hand experience, I thought that would be fantastic when we say cultural violence, meaning it's bigger than, and the culture usually gets embedded in law and regulation as well. So women since the 1979 revolution has been resisting, but basically there have been so many other issues coming up, including 8 years war between Iran and Iraq, and then little bit opening, which during the opening 1998 to 2005, I was engaged in politics more. So women's demand for freedom, control of their body, basically didn't get enough attention. But later, women's movement has started become stronger and stronger, and new generation, they didn't care there is law that you have to cover. They wanted to appear what they want, so they started resisting. 5 years ago, a girl stood on a podium, taking her scarf off and resisting that she doesn't want to have this, to wear hijab. And so she got arrested. Couple of other women did the same, they got arrested. Little by little, women learn that they have to, through non-violent means, they have to resist. This civic disobedience is very important matter, right? So then suddenly, about several months before this movement get started, because so many of women didn't wear hijab, they wanted to resist. There was basically a fight between a woman, she didn't have a hijab, and another woman who was religious and wanted to enforce hijab law, there was infighting. Other women in the bus threw that lady out because they said, mind your business. Why you care what we are doing, what we are wearing or not wearing? And then she got arrested. She got tortured. And young generation was resisting. Later, we've seen footage of videos of a mother calling, trying to stop police van because police van took her daughter because they assumed that she doesn't have proper hijab. And she was trying to basically stop the van by her body, saying that my daughter is sick, don't take my daughter. Because by the time moral police basically wanted to enforce the law. So after that, a 22 years Kurdish woman from Sanandaj, west of Iran, came to Tehran to visit her family member. Moral police basically warned her that they wanted to take her. I think there was a bit of resistance, and same day she was collapsed while she was in custody of police, and 3 days after that she died in a hospital. In reaction to death of a 22 years old woman, a movement has started called Women Life Freedom, and the name of the movement is simple. While it is simple, it's so meaningful. As you heard the song, women, basically, we want right of women be observed. We don't want to see any violence. Life, people want ordinary life. They don't want a state to interfere in their everyday life. They don't want so much, just they want a peace, right, and freedom. So, this is in Kurdish culture, for mourning, some women cut their hairs. So cutting hair become also sort of international icon in solidarity with the women life freedom movement. Around the world, women has started cutting their hair basically to show solidarity. That is why I showed it here and saying stand with Iran. And so this motto, which even we call it the movement name, Women Life Freedom, come from come from a Kurdish culture. And after that, because she was young, two other kids, this resonated with the younger generation. School girls got engaged and fueled the movement. If I show this video, I don't know, can you click on the video here? Oh, the other slide. Yes, this video, I show this video. A school girl has started protesting and basically, louder?
As the news of the deaths of Serena and Nico spread, something remarkable happened. Schoolgirls across Iran began to hold protests of their own. Despite internet blackouts imposed by the government, videos went viral showing extraordinary acts of defiance.
They turned on the leaders' photos.
Themselves defacing pictures of the supreme leader. A crime under Iranian law.
say, don't get scared. We are all together.
خیلی با گزارش اومد بیرون که خب مدیرای مدارس در از مواقع شروع کردن ریپورت دادن دانش آموزا نیروی امنیتی وارد مدرسه‌شون نگذاری از دانش آموزا در
Okay, and then so school girls like 15, 14, even middle school girls got engaged. They felt the movement talks to them because it's about their freedom, their movement. And by the way, I could say that this was the first time that the young children got engaged. And of course, they paid for it. So I just here showed 2 photos of out of 68 children who got killed by the authority around the country. Nika Karami, and she loved to sing. The first photo, that is why I took a photo of she was singing, and the second one, Sarina, and women were more engaged than boys because I think this was calling, it was their challenge, shared challenge. And I think the authority got surprised. They never seen that like schoolgirls to get engaged in the movement. What happened? After a while, they started poisoning attack on targeted, deliberate attempt to punish children. And the education minister who's supposed to support the kids, right? They said we send them to prison to get educated, which is, it was very bad. So we understand that 81% of people do not support Islamic Republic of Iran. But hey, we don't have free election. We have a sham election. Every 4 years we choose president. But first of all, not everyone is able to stand for the election. And then they narrowed electoral choice of the people. Then suddenly hijab become Achilles heel for the Islamic Republic, for the regime in Iran. I remember this basically, if you guys followed Mahatma Gandhi's Salt March, I think this is one of the strongest way of non-violent struggle that we could see. Simply women try to resist with their simple not covering their head, and in a way that the leader has started telling to say that not only is haram means forbidden religiously, this is a political haram, and meaning because hijab basically tied with the regime's identity, and because of that they felt that if this gets loosened, they lose their own identity. So that is why they say non-conformity to the hijab law is a political haram. It's not acceptable. And I believe that because the supreme leader said these children should get punished, they started poisoning attack in schools. Otherwise, we have strong security forces in Iran. They could chase down to see, because the state of course never accept that they poisoned school girls, right? Even if like a fundamentalist group started poisoning, security forces, police can identify who poisoned these kids. They never accepted that. So this is Mahsa Amini's, Mahsa Jina Amini, the girls that the movement has started after she got died. It's her hometown, and you see again a woman without hijab is icon of the movement. And some achievement for this movement. First, gender equality discourse has had wide support than before. We never had, like, after this movement, men also has started supporting them. If, let's say, business owner, if a woman without a job would go to let's say, a shop, and then suddenly a religious person would say you have to wear hijab, or would act violently. In several cases, business owner threw those guys in support of the women. So there was sort of solidarity among them. By the way, I would like to state that regarding the hijab, even from an Islamic point of view, there is different view. Some of clergy say it's not mandatory because religion itself is not mandatory. You have to accept religion on your own will, so you cannot mandate, impose, including those elements that consider part of principle and practices of a religion cannot be mandatory. Some clergies believe that is mandatory, but even if that is mandatory, you cannot force women to wear. And by the way, I believe Iran is the only country that mandate hijab. In other Muslim majority countries, Saudi Arabia, all Arab countries that they are Muslim majority country, Malaysia, Indonesia, Turkey, they are Muslim majority country, and hijab is not mandatory. Those who believe hijab, they wear it, but those don't, they don't. And I visited number of those countries. I know that there is there is no force, no enforcement. So it was very important this become uh, uh, there has been a great support for this. This is very important because I would like to share one piece. When I was member of parliament, of course, gender equality, advancement and improvement of women's condition was one of my agenda. And I remember whenever I was stepping up to support, for instance, women in senior managerial position. And then in one case, my colleague told to me that, hey, let's first this reform movement get succeeded, then we'll talk about women's rights, women's issue. I said, I think you don't understand the reform meaning at all, because reform means you preserve, protect right of every segment of society, including women. So I mean, it was hard, 10 years. I was in the parliament 2000 until 2004. It was hard to advocate for women's rights, even though the society has been open. Now everybody, even ordinary guys, support them. And in another case, to show important of this one is Sepide, who I just explained, has infighting inside the bus, defending herself, then got arrested, got tortured. She later wrote that she's coming from a remote area in Iran, which as you go, Tehran is more advanced, culturally open city, but as you go near the border, like near Afghanistan, near Pakistan, the culture is closer. And so she said, I was worried how my family would react, what my brother would react to me that I got arrested because I refused to wear hijab. She said, I wasn't worried how they are treating me. I was worried how my family would react, if they would accept me or not. That is why I started with the 2 points of cultural violence and structural violence, right? These are embedded in the culture. So, and she said, once I got out of prison, my brother hugged me, kissed me. And he said, I support you. This is your right. And I said, see, it's very important. One of my colleagues came to the United States about a month ago to visit. I was talking to him. He said, you guys do not understand how the society has been transformed in general. Families have been transformed. So this shows success of the movement. Widespread civil disobedience of women by not wearing a scarf, using Friday platform in Zahedan to support the movement. I would like to explain a bit about this. Zahedan, Sistan and Baluchistan province, is in um, east of Iran, close by to Pakistan and Afghanistan border. And it's Sunni dominated, Sunni Baluch dominated. Baluch is ethnic group and their religion is Sunni. And I met the Imam Friday, the leader of Sunni group, Maulavi Abdul Hamid, back in 2000 when I was member of parliament. I knew him. And he basically created a support there. Even up to now, the regime cannot arrest him because he is very strong. Of course, they can go and arrest him, but arresting him is so costly, and they try to make sure that they are not creating extra conflict there. So he supported, and Sunnis are more conservative than Shia majority in respect to Islamic tenant observation. And Iranian diaspora, my God, like remember 2-3 years ago, the United States sort of handed Afghanistan to Taliban, right? Everybody was protesting, and women's rights have been violated there. And to be honest, Afghan diaspora hasn't been as active as Iranian diaspora. One, I just will give 2 examples. In Toronto, to support of the movement, 50,000 people came to a street. Of course, not all of these 50,000 people were Iranian. They were Canadian as well, but the diaspora was active to bring them to a street. And in Berlin, Germany, 90,000 people came to a street to support the movement. And now they are so active, meeting different political stakeholders, leaders of Western countries, and they are supporting in any way that they could. International recognition of the movement, especially Western countries, especially European, were so active. part of the recognition. Nargis Mohammadi is 2023 Nobel Peace Prize winner, and she's in prison, even though she has been in prison on and off for a number of years. She's so active, she's vocal. First time I met Nargis when she was college student in one of city, and she was so passionate about freedom, democracy, and she non-stop, she has continued her work while she was in prison. She wrote a book on white torture, which is basically torture is not just like bodily harm, even mental harm can be, and being in prison is part of that white torture. And then the second prize, just recently, Sakharov Prize, got to Mahsa Amini and Iran Women Life Freedom. I am stopping, I know, I passed, right? Quickly, I just show this one and then I will stop here. So if we look at to the pattern of protest, over 150 districts got engaged in protest. Youth and women dominated, even though women were basically face of this movement. We cannot call it feminist movement because gender equality, yes, women's rights have been basically got enough attention, but still is not there. District with higher Kurdish and Sunni population. Iran has several ethnic groups: Kurdish, Turkish, Arabs, and district with higher Kurdish and Sunni population had higher rate of protest because Jina Mahsa Amini was a Kurdish Sunni woman. So it started from there. But 2 weeks within, district with higher population of Baluch population had higher rate of protest. I mentioned Kurdistan Friday prayer, which is ongoing. The lower the electoral turnout, the higher protest, because the electoral process is narrowed down. Trigger shaped the geography of basically protests. In 2019, also we had protests, over 1,000 people got killed because increased gas price. People came to a street and just security forces killed people. They wanted to stop. So gas price was a trigger. Here, killing a young woman was trigger in this movement. We have, of course, so many challenges: lack of shared leadership, shared vision, shared organization is a big issue because security forces is so, like they, if I just showed, if they poison 15, 16 years old children, you can imagine they can kill, arrest so many people. Media role as a double-edged sword because media, social media especially, has been helping, but it's also, we have a phenomenon of misinformation, and that Iran security forces used media to increase division among opposition. Fear is still governing among people because the regime used a sophisticated way of repression. I will stop here. Sure.
Okay. take some water? I have my own. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes.
While you're enjoying your tiramisu. Thanks for the patience. Fatemeh, thank you so much once again for coming to the mountains. Welcome to Colorado Springs once again. So it is heartbreaking to the core what is happening right now with the humanity. And I'm sure that we all feel sadness and anger, and I wondered so many times, what can I do? I'm just, I'm a mom, I live in Colorado Springs. What can I do to, support people who suffer? There is so many ways we can support people who suffer, children who suffer. And it is very important also to share information, to discuss this subject, to post. But also, as you said, media can be double sword. So first-hand information is the most valuable, and thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Could we quickly go back 30 minutes ago? We listened to a song from Iran, and you suggested yesterday that we play this song, and you told me that it encapsulates the feeling of Iranian people. Can you tell us a little bit about this song and how powerful it was for the especially younger generations
Yes.
in Iran?
As I mentioned, basically this song was based on what Shervin saw in social media, and people voiced different concerns, from environmental issues to their everyday life challenges that they face. And so the song resonated with every segment of society, from, that because of the condition, failed state in Afghanistan, Iran has so many Afghan population, and their status is not legal, they cannot have jobs. So one of the issue in this song was about Afghan children who has issue. Another, poverty, because of the sanction, mismanagement, poverty is another issue which has been in this song. Or like kissing each other, as simple as that, right? That is why I said this. This name of the movement and the motto, women, life, freedom. Women, life. People want everyday life. They want to kiss each other, and they cannot even kiss each other in public. They cannot be relaxed without worrying. Women, I did not continue that documentary. Mothers were protesting that they were concerned about mother. I am mother. We want to send our kids, making sure that they get education. We don't want to see our kids get killed, get arrested, get harmed. Like yesterday, I read in a news one of these young boys who was, I don't know, 16, 17, got arrested, was in prison, released. Yesterday, he committed suicide. These are effect of after, and the song reflect everything, and it's so powerful, resonated. That is why within 24 hours got viral, and it has been so powerful, and that is why Shervin got arrested.
Music and
Music.
humor were always most powerful weapons throughout revolutions all over the globe. When we were discussing and preparing your visit, the one thing that struck me was that you were among the first women being also very young to join the Iranian parliament. I believe that was a roller coaster of emotions for you. How did it feel to step into this role?
Yes, I was a student activist when I was college student. I was very active at the college, and then basically later I represented a student movement in the parliament. Parliament, like the minimum age to run for office is 30 years old, and I was 30 years old when I ran from Tehran, capital city, and because I was already was active, so many political parties knew me and put me in their list, and that wasn't enough for me. I was there, basically I felt member of parliament meaning representing people. I am a speaker of the needs. I have to represent people needs. If I knew something or if people would come to me, I felt I am just I supposed to represent them, and I have to be brave to represent them. So that was part of my fight. I wasn't scared. I thought this is my opportunity. I have to respect those votes that people gave vote to me to do something for them. And it's hard, really, like seeing that the parliament that's supposed to be supporting people, now the parliament is against people because no more, as I said, election is not free. Puppet of the regime are sitting in the parliament. Like those knows that women don't want mandatory hijab. They pass a law. I didn't have time to go through that. They pass a law basically to enforcing more and more, punishing women who do not want to wear hijab. Not only punishing women, punishing whomever support them, like um, business owners. If they don't say anything, basically they want to convert business owner as their own arm to enforce hijab law and monetize. So these are, I was telling, why? You have to listen and act based on what people want, not
This is
against.
not how it's done.
Yeah.
So from what you were saying, I get the picture that we don't really know what's happening in Iran. We all imagine this very strong Islamic regime that is holding a grip on a society. But from what you are saying, it seems that society is quite different from the regime. After a year of protests, what changed?
At the societal level, everything has changed. I could say that it is important people feel hopeful, but nowadays, like when I see that a young man commits suicide, what does it mean? Meaning they lose hope. They feel they lost so many, over 500 people got killed. Only 800 people lost their eyes because of their birdshot directly into their eyes. So many got injured, disabled. Over 40,000 people got arrested. They had to release many of them. Uh, so basically, the regime in Iran wants to show that you cannot change me. I am here to stay forever, and like this movement showing that I am able to change you, I will topple your regime. And really, majority of people don't want and they don't support the regime. It's two different things, but we are not so powerful so far to bring them down.
So many people see this as a religious struggle between a very conservative regime and a less conservative population, right? But some people see this as a pro-democracy struggle between autocratic regime and population that wants freedom. from what I'm figuring out, it also seems to be a generational struggle, right? Because we have so many young people in the audience today. Hi. um, can you tell us about the importance of youth in Iran in these protests and the potential change that they can bring?
Half of the population is under 30. The G generation is play an important role. That is why I showed that these young children, 15, 16, really they were the power of the movement. And yes, 40 years ago, the population, the people toppled the secular regime, but because the Shah was a dictator. But unfortunately, we just had a revolution going from one dictator, a secular dictatorship, to a religious dictatorship, which is now we cannot get rid of that. The Shah basically decided he doesn't want to kill people, left the country. They feel where they need to go. Which country will accept them? No country will accept them. They have to go to Afghanistan or where. So yes, generational shift has been happened. New generation may not share value of their parents. That is why societies in general grow, right? New generation bring something new, build something new. So I think the change is inevitable because of the new generation we see sitting here. But yes, generational shift, ideological shift, but don't forget it's although the regime in Iran is religious fundamentalist group, but religion is just a tool. Otherwise, none of this is acceptable in a religion term. No religion accepts this type of things. It's just a tool to enforce. So it's an authoritarian regime.
Okay, and we're closing soon. So everybody is fixed on conflict on Middle East today, Israel and Palestine, and certainly there's a growing role of Iran and Iranian government through these proxies. From your perspective, how does the Iranian population respond to these things? What is the dominant feeling in Iran looking into the Israeli-Palestinian conflict?
Yes, so regarding the conflict, first of all, the conflict is a complicated, long, 75 years conflict, right? It's not, there is no easy answer for that. But anything that the regime in Iran hold on, people tend to be opposite side of that. So in Iran, regime in Iran support Hamas and Palestine, and in Iran the population don't want, they are anti-Hamas. They are even anti-Palestine. They support Israel, which is, by the way, as I said, this happens because of how the government in Iran perceive that. If I share my honest view on the conflict wouldn't even tomorrow if Israel have a ground invasion of Gaza and remove Hamas, because if they don't pay attention to root of this issue, another Hamas will grow up. Two-state solution, making sure that Palestinian has right. I think Tom Friedman of New York Times well written a new column, which I think it's very important. Secretary of the United Nations recently issued a statement which is Israel also, yes, Hamas has to be condemned. It was savage. On the other hand, killing 5,000 Palestinians, it's a war crime that Israel is committed. But people in Iran want to distance themselves from what the government stands for.
Let's end this conversation on a lighter note. What are you going to do tomorrow? We heard that you're a good hiker.
Yes, I love hiking. By the way, Iran is so beautiful country, land of civilization, right? Persian Empire, right? Iran has a lot of mountain. I started hiking back in Iran. The highest mountain is 19,000 feet. I hiked all of those. I've been hiking in New Hampshire. I live in Boston area, which is, I love winter hike. I am four-season leader for Appalachian Mountain Club. I asked Sergio, her husband, that please take me to hiking. So,
And he will.
he will. Thank you.
Sunday, I believe. We are sure that you will have a pleasant time and you will enjoy the view and the fresh air. And once again, thank you so much for coming here. Ladies and gentlemen, Fatemeh Haghighatjoo.
Thank you so much for inviting me, listening to me.
And I think we have about half an hour for some questions, and I think here. Who has the first question?
I recall after the revolution that when Khomeini came from Paris or wherever, he was an old man, I thought. And now he's really an old man. I don't know exactly how old he is. He's what? He's dead. Well, who is the supreme leader?
The name is similar.
Yeah, that's what got me. Okay. What happens when he dies?
Excellent question. This is like, I talked a lot, couldn't go to all of my slides. So what would future would look like, basically. And because most people, most analysts, some of the leaders, opposition leader inside and outside of the country, they feel that after Khamenei, current leader who is 80 years old, dies, opening will happen by death of him, because there might be infighting among his supporters. The democratic movement might get stronger, and we may see a shift of power between the movement and the regime in Iran, between opposition and the movement. So there might be a good potential for change. If this is one option, and we are optimistic this option happen. Another option might be a coup d'etat of those who, because in Iran, in addition to the supreme leader, military revolutionary guard, which is different than Iran, classic military in Iran, they may basically took power. Right now, like some people support Khamenei's son, younger son, who is, I believe, 52, 53 years old. And some people support other people, so there might be infighting. So the future is not so clear, but I think basically we need to work a lot in opposition to have a shared vision, shared organization, to be able to have a stronger opposition.
Thank
Thank you very much for this explanation to the best of your knowledge. Do you have family personally in Iran at this time? And do they live in Tehran or outskirts? And how are they?
Yes, majority of my relatives live in Iran. My mother lives in Tehran. My cousin, uncle, everybody. My two sisters lives here. By the way, because I have been active non-stop. One of the regime in Iran arrested my sister because they couldn't touch me. I am here. So my sister served prison time because she's my sister, nothing else. She's no political activist. She's an artist. She was in prison for a year, and then after she left prison, I invited her. She came on tourist visa to here. Now she's here basically.
Is there something people can do from the outside, or can we only sit around and watch it unfold?
So sorry, can you please tell me one more time?
Is there something people can do from the outside, or can we only like sit around and watch it unfold?
Yes, I believe we can do something from outside. So many revolution movement in the world shows that sometimes opposition they go outside of the country. They start basically acting, organizing outside of the country. Even if we look at to the Gandhi case, he was first in South Africa, then went back to India to continue basically his movement. It's more than sit and watch. I think diaspora has an important role. I believe over 4 or 5 million Iranians live outside of the country, and they have been active since last year, but we have so many differences. Unfortunately, sometimes even opposition are not acting maturely. Some wants monarchy, which is the son of the previous king, live in Maryland. And even though at one point he said he wants republicanism, democracy, his follower push him, if you don't want to be king, we will find another king. So monarchies want monarchs, and we have republican, those who wants a democratic movement have been active. But really real change comes from within the country. So many of those political activists are in prison. I think Narges Mohammadi has been a great role model for everybody who has been sitting in prison for a number of years, but he doesn't stop, he works. Raising awareness is important, and I think it's having a real democracy in Iran, it's a part of global shared interests. Because if there is democracy in Iran, I think we may have a better peace process in the Middle East and around the world. So this is, you guys also as young generation may play an important role by voicing voice of Iranian, becoming voice of Iranian, because this is also national interest of the United States, West, and other countries. Thank you for an excellent question. We never can be silent.
How does change in the United States for American policies and politics affect the movement and its ability to function?
This is an excellent question because we are where around the world, right? We get impacted from each other. I think U.S. policy in general has, especially U.S. foreign policy, has important role. U.S. foreign policy is it's double standard. U.S. has to have a better foreign policy around the world, including in the Middle East, calling for democracy, is calling for democracy. It cannot say, oh, Saudi Arabia is my ally. I don't care. A crown prince ordered killing of a journalist. By the way, a journalist was sitting in working for Washington Post, right? So it does have impact. Young generation see these differences, and that makes them angry. And I think the United States has to change its international policy. United States, I believe, trying, helping the movement in Iran, supported the movement in Iran because a regime change, I call it regime change. The State Department doesn't have official regime change policy. It's in national interest of the United States as well.
You've mentioned a few times about the younger generation making an improvement or just helping with this. I was wondering, since a group of us came from Bound Valley, how we can help educate our peers other than just talking about what's going on with them.
Your question is about Iran?
My question is how can us students, the younger generation, be more a part in how educate others that are our age and make more
educate others in terms of the needs you feel? Are you talking about the US national policy or at the global level? For instance, if I understood your question correctly, you know that a young Swedish lady who is now I think 20, she was 16 once she started environmentalist call for environmentalist cause, right? She has been so powerful. I felt so empowered that she has such a power that not only in her own country, but her impact was at the global level. I think young people can have that impact. Or another young, Malala Yousaf from Pakistan, also she was 16 years old. She fought for right for education, for girls' education in Pakistan. By the way, you will perhaps know that she got Peace Nobel Prize as well. She's now, I think, 22 something, that age. She has had a great impact in her community. And when I look at 2 years that I was young, I thought I had more impact when I was a young person. Why? Because we are, as a young people, we are optimistic. We want to create an ideal world for ourselves, for our generation. We want to pursue justice. And we don't have anything to lose. And we don't have any commitment. So basically, I think that you guys have power if you understand and believe yourself. What challenges you see today in your community, greater community, that you think you can change, regardless of what that causes? Animal rights, why not? Environment, why not? Social justice, poverty, I don't know. what you care about. But whatever you care, this is the time.
Is that it for questions?
Well, actually, and there's one back there. The young students have asked the question I was going to ask very well, but I remember a time many years ago, there was a statistic, I don't know if it was true, I'm not a Middle East scholar, that something like 85% of the places in universities in Iran were taken by women.
Correct.
And I said to somebody at the time, when 85% of your college students are women, your society is not going to stay the same.
Absolutely.
I've also thought that if any country in the Middle East could become a stable democracy and sustainable democracy, it would be Iran. Of course, a lot of people think I'm crazy when I say that. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely, you are right. It's very interesting. Again, a story from when I was in Parliament. When I was in Parliament, and of course, gender issue was one important cause for me. I had a meeting with the industrial minister in Iran. I said to him, same thing that you said now. I said, hey, over 68% of college students are women, meaning in like couple of years, you as a minister of industry, other minister, you guys have to have plan. Not only in employment, everything, on every aspect, there will be demand. If you guys do not understand needs of this generation, you are going to lose them. And he said, yeah. You know how politician talks, they talks and they do their own things without caring about what really they hear. And now we see, now we see they didn't manage it, they didn't want it to care because they are women. Women are not important. They don't want to recognize and understand. They just want to control women. So controlling women cause very strong movement and has impact in other society as well. By the way, in the Middle East, although the Western country supported the movement, in the Middle East, they wanted to distance. Nobody basically recognized anything. Why? Because they know same things may happen in their own countries and they don't want that. Absolutely, you are right. A young lady was raised hand. Yes.
I've had the opportunity to travel to a number of countries that are Muslim countries. Most recently, I was in Morocco speaking to a young woman in Marrakesh who was a college student who decided that her role in her relationship with Allah did not include the hijab. And as a result, her family disowned her, her brother threatened to kill her, et cetera, et cetera. It was a very, very hard journey for her, which she is still fighting. I think one of the things that I find most interesting is that not only is like the hijab a cultural thing, but also it is indeed a religion and a religious issue. And what really do you think is the possibility of the Muslim religion changing so that women can have a more equal role in society? Because personally, I don't see it happening anytime soon.
Excellent question. In 2007, President Carter, you know, he has an organization, human rights organization. They invited me to Georgia, and when I sat with President Carter, I told him that and by the time in 2007 the time was war on terror, things that going on with President Bush. And I told to him that, hey, do you know what you guys doing? You just giving more podium to Al-Qaeda, Bin Laden, and those fundamental groups. Nothing more. You just give attention to them. Why not you guys give, in addition to paying attention to Bin Laden, blah, 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 give voice to moderate, Muslim moderate. Who know? I asked him, do you know any Muslim moderate leader? You don't. Because media shapes our understanding of Muslim society. If we give more voice to moderate, then the world will be a better place. Because, hey, we have lots of Muslim, right? The population is high. If we want to have a peaceful situation, we have to boost moderate in Muslim country, and giving voice to moderate would solve that problem as well. Giving that, hey, religion is not just this. Religion, as that lady you met, hijab is not part of, it's not part of being connected to God. You want to be believer? There are millions of ways connecting to the God. I don't need to have a certain atheist to be connected to God. And moderate leaders can boost that idea. And I think just supporting moderate views, moderate voices in Muslim communities, it's very helpful. And as they get educated, we know that patriarchy is embedded in religion. It's not just in Islam, by the way, right? In Christianity, in Judaism, everywhere. In non-Abrahamic religion also, you go, there are those who believe there is no change. And I believe moderate can help that, can boost that. Yes, unfortunately, honor killing is a phenomenon in so many countries. Even in India, that they are Hindus, right? Still honor killing as it's a big issue. It's cultural violence, which we see.
We have time for one or two more questions.
Thank you so much for coming and talking to us. Oh, did you not want me to talk?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay, good. I really have something to say to these tables of young people. My father was the minority whip of the Maine legislature. He was a Republican. My first vote was for Hubert Humphrey. However, he believed in civil liberties. And he gave me a book when I was a teacher called Teaching as a Subversive Activity. And the point of it is that anything you do, it doesn't matter whether you're waiting tables, it doesn't matter whether you're teaching, it doesn't matter whatever work you do, you have an opportunity to change hearts and minds by how you are and what you say and what you don't turn away from. So I want you to pay attention to what's happening in our country as well as in Iran and other countries around the world. We're in a shaky time, and all of us have to step up, help people register to vote, pay attention to the local people in your community who are making decisions for you, and it will not feel hopeless because you will have something to do. Barack Obama said the best way not to feel hopeless is to stand up and do something. So I just want to say that any democracy can be brought to its knees if we don't pay attention.
Did you have a question?
This is a different topic altogether, but Iran and the regime, you, as properly said, is very sophisticated in the way it uses media and the communications. Iranian opposition is also very sophisticated. The Iranian public is sophisticated, I think, in getting its news, theater, television. As I understand it, the Los Angeles diaspora has been fundamental to providing a lot of entertainment in Iran. Is that, what's the state of the so-called border? That is, how difficult is it for Iranians to communicate with the world and or you to communicate with Iran, whether we're talking telephone or we're talking internet or satellite television or whatever?
Thank you so much for this fantastic question. Internet is a big issue in Iran because Iranian regime wants to control flow of information, wants to make sure nothing comes out of Iran, and they are scared to death for anything, like for the hijab law that recently was passed. A newspaper issued a survey that 86% of people who responded to the survey, which was over 12,000 people, they disagree with the bill and they feel that the bill is not going to succeed because people don't like that, right? So, but they summoned the chief of that newspaper because they published something that the regime didn't like. So they try to control media and internet. The second point is they try to create their own intranet, which is, and to separate people from the world. They want to have they want to control flow of information. So I think one of you ask about how the United States can help. One of the help that the United States, Western countries can provide is providing internet through satellite. So many people talk to Elon Musk. By the way, Elon Musk provided, I think, lots of dishes to Ukrainian once the war has started in Ukraine. And for Iran, he's a businessman. He says somebody has to pay, right? So some Iranian in diaspora started buying, paying out of pocket and sending satellite. But hey, for the population, Iran has 85 million population. Like sending 1,000 satellite in 85 million population, it's like nothing. So flow of information is very important. Being able people to have access to internet, to communicate, it's important. And this is a way that the opposition and people inside country can communicate well. Thank you for this fantastic question.
Please help me to thank Fatemeh for her presence here today. Thank you so much. We have a small gift for you, if I may. Just a little token. I hope that packs well. Sure.
Thank you.
It is, as you all know, a small paperweight gin globe for you.
Yeah. Wow. Very lovely. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for coming.